Welcome to podcast number 33. I've got to think twice before I know which number we're at. Okay, it's number 33. And so, as you know, a spontaneous podcast based on how do we study the piano? How do we work on piano pieces? And how can we actually improve ourselves next to our lessons? And I think what I've got to say is something slightly different than what you're, maybe quite different from what you hear in your lessons, which is not saying that your lessons are not good. It's very important to do that also. I've got certain ideas about it, having worked a lot with pianists and having done so much of myself in the concert world. And I've learned one or two things. One thing I did learn very early in my life, that making mistakes is probably one of the best things you can do to learn and grow. You grow quicker if you dare to make a mistake. If you don't dare to do it, you stay careful, you remain careful in your study, which means your technique is what I call a very careful technique, one which is not allowed to make any mistake anywhere and will probably be almost claustrophobic. Anyway, that having said, this is what I think about studying. And I may say before we finish, please put a like on this podcast if you would, because every like is really more than welcome. It helps very much to get the podcasts going. So if you can do that. And another thing, if you have any questions for your podcast, please don't hesitate to ask. Put them in the comments and we will try to answer them in a future podcast. So, getting back to the music, what did I think? Well, I've chosen spontaneously today another study of Heller. Why do I choose Heller? I'll tell you. I think that he was a very musical guy, a very musical man. He really somehow felt the way we need to study to actually improve and to be able to grow quicker. And what I think is important in what I'm going to show today is that it's very simple. It's not a difficult piece. These pieces are basically intermediate pieces. Everyone of 3 or 4 years study of the piano should be able to play them. If you can't, well, that means think about it. You've got to find a way to be able to do this, because you should be able to do it. And it's great fun. These pieces are really fun to play. So I've chosen today the fifth. Is it the fifth? No, it's the fourth. So the fourth etude from Heller's. What is the number? The opus number? I forget. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You'll find it when you. It is 45. Opus 45. So you get the idea. This is quite spontaneous. This piece, it's written with allegretto, so we don't play it too fast. And there are several things that are important. Why is it a study? Well, there's a study, I think, for several reasons. The first reason is you've got long notes played together with shorter notes, and how to make the long notes stand and play right through the whole 2 bars, because they're almost 2 long bars that the long notes stay. I'll let you hear it. That note has still got to go on. It's something which reminds me, Brahms once said when he was talking to some young people, the important thing is the second half of each long note. You've got to hear the second half of a long note. When you listen to many pianists, sometimes even famous pianists, and you listen to their playing, if you listen critically, you often will hear in long notes that they don't carry on. They don't stay long. They are mostly disappearing in the second beat. But this is another point. Anyway, there's one other things to study in this piece, and I'll play it just the beginning so you hear. playing to this point. What I like about it is the way it develops. And it's for young people very important to feel how pieces of music develop. I think we spoke about that in the last podcast. But it's very important to really be able to follow it and to be able to hear each development. Several things which are important then. I think you've got to really be very careful that your tempo is a tempo where you can absolutely hear it. It's just like when we are speaking. So many times I've been in a lecture listening to some very famous professor speaking, and I've noticed one thing that often happens. They speak often too fast. You can't understand more than about, or maybe if you're lucky, 50% of what they're saying. And if you just try to just listen and analyze how they are speaking, not what they're saying, because that's another story, but how they are saying it. This is a very interesting area to discover how to play the piano, because how do they take time? Do they take time after each sentence? Do they just go on? Are they rambling on like this without any feeling of waiting? This is so important. And I think this is important also when we're playing music, knowing when to go on, when to move on, and when to somehow hold the attention and stop time. We stop the time. Let me try and show you. Maybe I play it right through and you can hear if I do that anywhere. I will make the certain things a bit overdone to try to show what I'm trying to talk about and discuss. That was not intended, but of course I had to change it. Maybe you could hear what I was talking about. It's got a few moments, not many, you don't always need many, just a few things. As I said earlier, the small things are sometimes the most effective. Sometimes it's more effective when you do something only once and try to keep it only once in the whole piece. For instance, if you bring out every top note of a phrase, if you've got 3 or 4 measures and you bring out every top note, it'll get quite boring and probably not really be very interesting to listen to. You've got to really make a choice. How many do you want to hear? How do you do that? And I think that's something I liked very much, is working out a sort of strategy, a sort of way of working on a piece and finding really where the climax is, exactly where the moment is. Just like Rachmaninoff once said, you've got to find out the point of the piece, the climax moment of the piece, and you've got to really basically work from that point forwards and backwards. So you could even start practicing at the point of the climax, not at the beginning of the piece. An idea to give it a go. Or even, what I've often suggested to students, try practicing from the last notes and going backwards. Just do this once or so every day. Just practice every measure a couple of times, play it through slowly, and just play it slowly through, and then go to the measure before it and play that about 3 or 4 times, and starting always slowly and gradually increasing the speed, and then do that maybe in the beginning for about 20 measures if you can. And it doesn't take much time, and I think you learn the piece quicker. And especially when you don't do this a few days in a row, because it's actually the continuation of study that makes you go quicker and faster. It's what you do every day that means a tremendous lot. It works really very well. Just every day, just 1 hour is enough if you really concentrate on it. And try that out and see what happens with practicing a piece if it doesn't go faster. Well, thank you for listening, and don't forget, please do subscribe to our channel.